So these bedside tables are made from French oak. So I'm just working on getting the cabriolet leg stock ready to go. And once I know what that final stock size is, I can then work out on a leg shape. I like to just cut out one side of that template, smooth off that shape and get it looking good, and then I can just work from that side and kind of mirror image it kind of on the other side. Right, so the most important thing I think about making these legs look any good is to choose a nice rift sawn timber. So the grain is running diagonally across the leg, and you want to place the knee of the cabriolet leg facing out towards this radius that the timber makes, and that really will give you a nice symmetrical looking grain pattern when you cut the leg. Otherwise you could end up with really strange grain lines. Then I could get on to actually cleaning up the shape. I use a spoke shave or a couple of spoke shaves to get rid of all the bandsaw marks and just refine the curve I'm looking for. And this took a fair bit of time. And then I use my drum sander to get rid of any little chatter marks and pieces where the spoke shave wouldn't quite fit. I really like using this machine. It was actually the first machine I ever bought when I was 14. And then I could go over the legs again with a card scraper and a little bit of sandpaper just to clean them up. Next job was to cut the mortises, or well, what are essentially just big grooves, but I'll call them mortises. So I just did this on the router table, so I could do one side easily. The other side I actually had to change the bit because of the knee of the leg got in the way. So just changed the bit to a slot cutting bit and did the other side. Then it was time to start making the aprons. So you may have noticed in the glue up, I added this piece stretcher across the front, and I added a groove in here as well, so that way I've just made up these small runners, which will be my drawer runners. So just put a little bit of glue on these and tap them into place. To add the top stretcher, and you'll see that curved template there. You'll see how I made that in a bit. So I needed that to work out how far forward that top stretcher had to be. Then I could cut the dovetails to hold it in place. Right, time to work on the drawer fronts. This is 80mm stock French oak, which is pretty nice to work with. Just working out the curve now that I actually know the length of my drawer front. Working out what the curve's going to be on the front, and once I did this, I then did it again on the piece of plywood. That's how I got the template earlier. And I'm using ash for the drawer sides and back and base, so just milled that up. Then I can fit the sides before I make the drawers. So when it comes to laying out the tails and pins, I like to just see what looks nice rather than make everything very symmetrical and evenly spaced. I will just draw on a few options and see what actually I think looks nice with the size of the pin and the contrast and of the two timbers, and so anyway I came up with what it probably ended up looking pretty normal. And now the groove for the drawer bottom. And then onto the through dovetails for the back corners of the drawers. And I could clean up the inside faces of all the drawer parts. And finally it was time to get onto the part I'd been putting off, because it just seemed like a scary thing to do, but it was actually simple as. That's how you put a scraper into your hand. And using my slot cutter again, I could put the slot in the drawer front, which actually worked out really well. Could clean up and kind of fit the drawers. Because the drawer front's quite heavy considering the size of the drawer, the front kind of tilts down like that, so I've decided to put an extra rail through the top. But first I could cut the front stretcher to the same shape as the drawer front. But before I glued anything in, I cut a couple of wide mortises for the buttons that will hold the top on. And I could smooth out the drawer bottoms. And work out where to cut the curve on the front. So after doing that, I could turn the bottoms over and start planing the large kind of arris, so the bottom slides into the grooves.
I like often to get my stacks nice and flat, or haven't seen on something nice and flat, so in theory, you kind of give them the best foot forward. The weight on the stack is holding at least that bottom slab down flat. So in theory it should be better, but nice.
So I'm just fixing the bottom in with a small bit of glue at the front, and the back will be left free, so the whole base can just expand and contract as it likes. I had found a pretty nice quarter sawn board that was just long enough for both tops, so the grain is very similar on both tops, and yeah, really nice figure.
Hello.
So I'm using a water-based polyurethane, which I seem to quite like these days. It's with oak especially, I find it raises the grain quite a lot on the first coat, but after a sand with probably 240, it really gets a smooth finish after another couple of coats. So, and you can get 2 coats, 3 coats on it in a day if you're lucky.